The health and economic crisis that we have had for the last 1 year is still playing itself out. Although there's good news on the vaccine front. As we all know, so many things that happened the last 1 year. Businesses were closed, jobs were lost, and we can't travel. All of us miss that. But that aside, while the economy was really in a tailspin, the markets, the financial markets told a different story. And those of you who were smart enough, quick enough to make your money work, especially in the equities market, would have done very well. Stock markets around the world are at all-time high. Stocks in some sectors have been on all-time high. So the reality is that although the economy is still in bad shape, the health crisis is still there, there are opportunities for savvy investors to make money.
The year 2020 has seen its fair share of major events, from the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic to the recent US presidential election. Despite the backdrop of uncertainty, global equities, as Dato' mentioned, have managed to recover back to pre-COVID-19 levels, and in some sectors even beyond, bolstered by massive government stimulus, and more recently, positive news on the COVID-19 vaccine. As we head into the new year, are markets likely to continue on their path of recovery? What are some of the risks investors should keep a lookout for?
One of the biggest mistakes people do is trying to time the market, and one advice is to avoid that. So a classic example was last year, where we saw a huge downturn in the markets in the first quarter. So if you take S&P 500 as an example, S&P 500 total returns, if you'd stayed invested in all of last year and not panicked in Q1 and pulled your money out, if you stayed invested, you would have made 17.5%, which is pretty decent double-digit returns for what was a very volatile year. But if you try to time the market, if you panicked, pulled your money out, then try to go back in, and try to, all of that, then you would have basically, if you missed the 20 best days, because we won't know what the 20 best days are, but if you missed the 20 best days, you would have made a paltry 1.8%. In a year last year where almost every single asset class performed, you would have lost money because of trying to time the market. So within the portfolio, what you can do and talk to the RMs is how do you pivot? How do you, tactical positioning to reduce the impact of volatility? And I mentioned things like adding gold to your portfolio, right? That's a good hedge for volatility. Within equities, how do you make those tactical shifts away from the tech sector, which has done exceptionally well and overvalued? How do you take the gains, take the profit and reinvest into certain other areas which have, room to grow, like your small to mid cap? I mentioned how the governments around the world are taking this very seriously. So if it was just a trend that the investors are driving, then you could say potentially that's the case. But when you have a holistic wholesale shift and approaching this and taking this seriously, and it's not just Greta Thunberg on the social media talking about it, but you have, commitments from governments around the world. You have, I mentioned the EU Green Deal. I mentioned China committing to being carbon neutral by a certain date. That's phenomenal for them to commit to that, given they're one of the largest producers of greenhouse gases. And then you've got President Biden, who's back on the seat and committing to signing back onto the Paris Accord. And then that means that there will be incentives for companies around the world within these governments that have these targets to incentivize to have ESG as part of their values and parameters, and not just financial metrics, right? So once you've incentivized these companies, and then it's up to them to make sure that that they implement them and have strong governance around adopting ESG rather than just paying lip service. And then of course you have downstream impact around the supply chain network. So if I'm a company and I have ESG targets, I will make sure that the people that I'm trading with or my supply chain is also ESG aligned.